Good morning, everybody. Back in the backyard here. I've got 5 players that you want to let your idiot league mates draft because they are going to bust. These guys are mid-round guys that have had years to wow me, guys. And guess what? I'm not wowed. I don't want you guys to draft these guys. I'm personally staying away from them, and I absolutely think they're pests. I absolutely hate them for the season. I will not have any stock in them. I will not invest in them, and you shouldn't either, okay? If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys smash it, tap it, slap it, hit the thumbs up, guys, and leave a comment below. Let me know about a running back that you completely dislike for this season as well. Drop it below. Let's make this interactive, guys. July is here. Fantasy football is back. It's an exciting time to be a fantasy football fan. Show your passion, guys, in the comments. Let me know what you guys think of this list, and let me know of a player that you guys are avoiding in the mid-rounds as well, okay? Again, grab your Smash It, Tap It shirts. I've linked it below. And, of course, grab the 16-round draft, so it'll put you guys light years ahead of the sheep. Sleepers, breakouts, optimal players draft in each round. I've linked it below. And grab a ticket to the summit. We got an amazing virtual summit. You could join us from the comfort of your home. It's going to be on August 21st, 7:30. We got Kyron Williams, Trey Benson, Pat Fryermuth, and more. It's going to be all online virtually, and you're entered for a PS5 as soon as you grab a ticket, okay? All right, guys, winner will be announced on August 21st. I'm excited about this, guys. Fantasy's back. I'm excited to dive into these players here. Now, again, if you are new to the channel, hit the thumbs up, comment. Also, I want to tell you guys, being outside here, it's the evening. I tend to record the show the day before. The day before, so you guys get this at 7 a.m. and that sun is just beating down right in my eyes. Like, there's a fence, and it's like right over the fence. So if I'm having a hard time seeing, I lost my sheet here. If I'm having a hard time seeing here, it's because the sun is right in my eyes. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Let's dive into it. The first player in the mid-rounds that you absolutely need to avoid, guys, I encourage you guys to stay away from this guy. I'll tell you why. Is Tony Pollard, all right? This guy sucks. Years to wow us, we're not wowed, okay? 6 touchdowns in his first 3 seasons as a player. Finished 14th last year and completely busted. Everybody, guys, last year was telling you Pollard, first round, 8th overall. What I tell you guys, avoid Tony Pollard. He sucks. He's not worth it. And, of course, he busted, as I said he would. Now Tony Pollard's ADP is 83, ahead of the guy who is the RB1 on his team. I'm sick of this whole talk about, like, Tajay Spears is not the one. Tajay Spears is the one. All right? He was drafted, and he was the backup for Derrick Henry to be the backup for Derrick Henry. Drafted in the 3rd round by the team that he's still on. I'm going to keep talking about this until, you guys are blue in the face or whatever that saying is, until, the cows come home, right? Tajay Spears was drafted in the 3rd round, and he's on the team that he's still on. Like, he's on, the Titans. In comes Tony Pollard, who's a failed backup, a failed starter. He failed last year, guys. He finished 14th. He had 252 attempts. And all he could do with that is just barely make 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. He did get 4 yards per carry. Just didn't really do anything with it. He fumbled. He wasn't explosive. He sucked. Had the opportunity to shine, and he literally dropped the ball. Spears is coming off a round or 2 after Tony Pollard on paper. He is 98th overall on the Sheep rankings compared to the 83 that Pollard is. Listen, guys, if you're looking at mid-round running backs, Pollard is not it. He sucks. Again, Spears is the guy, way more upside. By the way, Spears is coming to the Fantasy Sports Summit. If you haven't got your ticket, grab it below, okay? So, let's talk about him. Tony Pollard. All I got to say about him is that he sucks. Don't draft him. And yet I can't believe he's ranked ahead of Tajay Spears. Like, who do they think they are? Ranking a guy who was drafted in the 4th round on a team that he was a backup for. Sucks. Absolute trash player, Tony Pollard, garbage player. And yes, they paid him a lot, but you got to pay people these days. This is just the NFL these days. People get paid, even though they're not worth it. This goes back to, Carson Wentz. We got that $128 million deal when quarterbacks started getting paid a lot. I'm like, dude, that is a waste of money. Yet everybody paid Carson Wentz, and I was like, everyone's like sticking up for me. Yeah, Carson Wentz. Dude, I'm like, that's the biggest waste of $128 million. And he busted, as I said he would. So, again, Tony Pollard sucks. Don't draft him. Second guy here absolutely sucks. Now, some people say, no, he's good. And I can't believe this guy's ranked ahead of the guy, ahead of him is James Conner. Okay, number 2. He's a bust. He's a player to avoid, a running back to avoid. ADP 69 rounds, 5 to 6. James Conner last year was the RB1 on his team and finished 18th. Okay, that's how bad he is. He finished 18th. He had 208 attempts. Again, just barely scraping 1,000 yards and 200, just over 200 fantasy points, 201. He's in his 8th season, guys. And here's a stat you guys need to know. 8th season, he's only had one 1,000-yard rushing season. We're talking James Conner here, okay? He was a backup to crappy Le'Veon Bell. Guys, this guy's a bust. He's a mid-round pass. Do not draft this guy under no circumstances. And I'm all in on Trey Benson. Drafted in the 3rd round. Amazing, explosive, young, dynamic, tons of tread on the tire. Ran a 4.39. He's coming to the Fantasy Sports Summit as well. Now you're saying, well, Joe, you're biased. How could you say, Trey Benson and Tajay Spears over Pollard and Connor? Guys, I'm seeing the stats. Connor and Pollard suck. Trash. Okay? Go for the guys that are going to be the RB1s, the guys that are young, the guys that are dynamic, the guys that are explosive, the guys that have upside, and you get them later. Does that make sense? And they're going to be the one. Trey Benson's the one. I don't care what anybody says. It is politics. It's literally like, okay, James Conner was our guy. We just can't let him down. We got to just let, Trey, we drafted Trey Benson with high draft capital as early as we can get him without having him to get taken away from the draft. And sure enough, man, we got to just say, oh, Connor's our starter. BS. I'm not buying it. I'm not sold on it. Mind you, both these situations can be potentially committees, which can be an issue. But at the end of the day, man, go for the upside guy. Pass on James Conner and pass on crappy Tony Pollard. Failed starters, man. Failed. Again, James Conner, 8 seasons. Actually, he's heading into his 8th season, but he's only had one 1,000-yard rushing season. It was last year. He was a backup to crappy Le'Veon Bell, who was a product of that offense. And I've said this before in many other videos. I'm going to say it again. Le'Veon Bell sucked. He was a product of the offense, and everyone told you to draft Le'Veon Bell when he went to the Jets in round 1. I said avoid Le'Veon Bell under every circumstance. No circumstances should you be drafting Le'Veon Bell. And sure enough, he busted, and he busted hard. Okay, so Le'Veon Bell. And this guy was a backup to him, James Conner, okay? So do not draft James Conner under no circumstance, okay? Finished 18th last year, and he was the starter. He should be ashamed of himself. He had the opportunity, and he busted, just like his counterpart here or the other guy, Tony Pollard, right? Number 3. Now, this is what I don't understand. Aaron Jones, the guy I'm talking about, he's coming off in round 5, 63 overall. This guy finished 37th last year and played 11 games. So again, I've talked about this in other videos. Again, if you're new to the channel, again, smash it, tap it, slap it, hit the thumbs up because I'm the only one talking about the truth here. Aaron Jones sucks. He's a trash player. He was never good. He was always a mediocre guy, okay? Listen, this guy had 8 touchdowns on the ground in the last 3 seasons. He's 29 years old and entering his 8th season. And people are drafting him in round 5. He's got 0 upside. Like literally 0 upside. And what I don't understand and what I never understood is that if we know a player's trash and he's in his 10th season and he's like 100 years old, which is like, he's 29 years old, which is like 100 years in running back years, why would another team even bother acquiring him? Never mind acquiring him, but making him theoretically on paper your starter, that's absolutely ludicrous. Aaron Jones sucks. He's garbage. Round 5 is ludicrous. Okay? Absolutely ludicrous. And I'm looking at his stats, man. Just absolute trash. And again, had his injuries in the past. Old as dirt. And again, Minnesota, why would you want the Packers trash? The Packers know he's garbage. That's why they got rid of him. So he has no business being a starter on any team, and he has no business being on your fantasy team. Trash. Guys, when you're drafting players, look for upside, look for the future, look for guys that are young, dynamic, upside. Now, none of these guys should be your RB1s, Trey Benson, Spears, but you get them on your team and they have the potential to be a top 10 finisher. Does that make sense? So you're grabbing Benson, you're grabbing Tajay later, and literally you're getting a top 10 potential finisher and you're getting him for later. But no way is an Aaron Jones or a James Conner going to finish top 10. James Conner had a chance to finish as a top 10 guy because he was the only guy there last year, and he still busted. He still sucked. Okay? So Aaron Jones, guys, is my number 3. Number 4, there's probably not a running back I hate in the NFL more than I hate this guy, and that's David Montgomery, who, again, 14 games last year, did okay, but he's on a really good offense. 219 attempts, 1,015 yards, 4.6 yards per carry, and 13 touchdowns. So you're saying, well, Joe, don't draft Jahmyr Gibbs because David Montgomery's a pest. Now you're telling me not to draft David Montgomery, but I want a piece of that running back offense, that is the Detroit Lions. I want a piece of that high-octane offense. And I understand. But, again, David Montgomery sucks. He's trash. He has no business being the starter. And I've said this before. But at the end of the day, man, Jahmyr Gibbs is very expensive. He's coming off round one, and David Montgomery is good enough to be a pest. That being said, I like Gibbs. I think Gibbs is going to get an increase in volume. He is the better out of the running backs. David Montgomery is absolute garbage. But you got to understand here that David Montgomery shouldn't even be playing, because when he was hurt, Gibbs tore it up, and yet they still continue to run David Montgomery. And I guess they're preserving them, and I guess in reality football, it makes sense. But guys, it's absolute BS, because you want to play your best running back, and that is Jahmyr Gibbs. But David Montgomery's a pest. Now, he's coming off rounds 5 to 6. And again, he's been injured year in, year out. He's always missing a couple games. And out of the 5 seasons he's played, he's only had 2 1,000-yard rushing seasons. So years to wow us, we're not wowed. And again, if I were the Lions, I'd be working Jahmyr Gibbs. At least if they're running the ball 400 times a year, I'd be giving 280 attempts to Jahmyr Gibbs. Definitely not be giving David Montgomery 219 attempts. So I'm staying away from both of them this year. I don't like this committee. And when David Montgomery gets hurt, and I think he will, Gibbs will shine. But unless Montgomery gets hurt, Gibbs won't really hit his absolute ceiling. And yes, Gibbs can finish as top 10, but he's still going to be losing valuable goal line work and valuable touches. I'm going to be annoyed all season. I spent a first-round pick on Gibbs, and I got to see David Montgomery's ugly mug, and I don't want to do that. So, again, David Montgomery, I totally don't like this guy, and again, you should be fading him, in late rounds. The last guy, and I probably dislike this guy more than all the other running backs. This guy has zero business, literally. I'm scratching my head here, man. The bugs are out, and the sweat's, seeping in. Zeke Elliot has literally zero business being in the NFL, okay? This guy was let go by the Cowboys, and now they acquired him back, and he's slated as the starter. Again, another situation like Aaron Jones. Like, these guys have no business being starters. Zach Moss, no business being starters. It's like, is that all you can come up with, is like these guys? I mean, you had a chance to draft a top running back prospect, and you start Zeke Elliott? That's the best you can come up with? Dude, this guy sucks. He's been declining every single year. He's coming off round 8 to 9, as late as 10. He finished 30th last year amongst running backs with 3.5 yards per carry in New England. He's heading into his 9th season. Guys, it's not 2016 anymore. You do not want to put this guy on your roster. Let your idiot league mates draft this guy, okay? He's a bust. He sucks. He's trash. He can't catch the ball. He's washed up. And he was pretty much almost losing his job to crappy Tony Pollard, who we were talking about earlier in this show. David Montgomery, Zeke Elliott, Aaron Jones, James Conner, and Tony Pollard are trash running backs. They're going to be taking away precious points from guys that are far superior and have way more upside. If you give Tajay 280 attempts, which he should be getting, if you give Trey Benson 200 to 300 attempts, which he should be getting, if you give Jahmyr Gibbs 280 attempts, which he should be getting, we are talking about 400 fantasy points a season. But it's because of these pests that they're going to not hit their potential. And I'm going to keep going back to the example of Zach Charbonnet last year, okay? The guy could have been a starting running back on any team, but Seattle drafted him, and he's taking precious volume away from Kenneth Walker. And if you had taken those points that Zach Charbonnet created, and he gave those to literally Walker would have finished as a top 10 running back. And because he lost all those points, he lost over 30 receptions and over 400 yards, he finished 19th in PPR amongst running backs, because that volume was gone. That ceiling was limited, and we're getting these committees everywhere. So if you're going to get a running back, go for the guy that is going to take that starting job and is going to have the upside. Guys like Trey Benson, guys like Tajay Spears, and fade the guys that have had years to wow you and you're not wowed guys. Think outside the box. Line mentality. Don't waste your time. Aim high on the depth chart. And if you are in a situation where there's a committee or a potential committee on paper, a 50-50 split, aim for the guy with upside. Like, that's what people are doing with Jahmyr Gibbs. They're drafting him round 1, and Montgomery's round, where'd Montgomery coming off? Round 5 to 6. Why not draft Trey Benson before Conner? He is like the Jahmyr Gibbs. He's the upside guy. So why is Conner coming off before Trey Benson? It makes zero logical sense, okay? But yet, Gibbs is coming off before Montgomery. Guys, start thinking, guys. Think outside the box. Project ahead. Again, that's what I explained in the 16-round draft, so you guys will be light years ahead of the sheep. All right, guys? If you're new to the channel, smash it, tap it, slap it. Do not draft these running backs under any circumstance. These are players to avoid. They're mid-round guys that are just absolute waste. Just overlook them. Don't draft them, and you'll be a very, very happy person this season, all right? If you guys, again, want all the optimal players and all the players to avoid, grab 16 rounds, grab it below, all right? Thank you, guys. Hope you guys have a great day. Jimmy's back tomorrow. We're doing top 10 breakouts tomorrow, along with the latest news and notes and everything fantasy football. All right, fantasy's back. Smash it, tap it, slap it. Have yourself a great day.